Good afternoon from a miserable, grim, horrible, windy, wet Peterborough. I'm currently sat in the summer room looking at the pond, so close to getting it finished yesterday, so big respect to Matt Williams. He worked like a Trojan, really did. We've got water in the pond, probably couple of cupfuls, but one drip or 10 gallon, it's still water in the pond and it cannot be floor coated. So I have made some errors in the construction of this pond, and I only realised there were errors until we started getting wind and rain. Now I can rectify that. Currently Matt says just leave it and we'll try and get a dry day or a full 24 hours and we'll sort that out. So at the moment, I'm just going to leave it. But I have ordered some 8 meters by 4 meter roll of DPC membrane. So if Matt cannot come within the next, say, week, I will probably try and change the structure of it and make it more watertight. But at the moment, I'm going to sit on my hands. So in an attempt to try and help you, if you like, I'm just going to tell you what mistakes and problems and wins I had with this cover, and hopefully if you're planning a pond and you are having mat over or a fiberglass over, this is more of an understanding of what is needed. So I'll put my glasses on because I can't see. So the first one is the waterproof cover. Is it good enough? So I used tarpaulin, and what I didn't realise is that one of the tarpaulins that I bought was water resistant and two of the tarpaulins are waterproof. You need waterproof. We'll come back to tarpaulins later. As you can see, I've cut my head because I walked into one of the posts. And so the second element is head height. Does your fiberglass have sufficient head height to stop banging his head? It's a simple one, just for the safety. So head height. Access and egress. Can you actually get in and out with ease, or you're going to need a step ladder, ladders, stools, something like that. So make sure that you can get in and out of various areas easily without tripping and falling over everything. Pitch of the roof. Now I have a slope on my roof and it's not enough. It's not enough. A roofer will probably tell you that you need X amount of degrees slope. For me, as long as you're not intruding in the head height and creating a problem, have it steep or a very, very good slope on it, because you need that water off your tarpaulin. The security of the cover. Now I've actually screwed this against the wood through the eyelets that are provided in the tarpaulin. I've put a large plane washer and a screw through it so it's not going anywhere. Other areas I've put bungee ropes just to secure the tarpaulin round the perimeter, and they're doing a cracking job. The structure itself, I would hasten to say that if you can walk on top of that structure and it doesn't wobble, that structure is strong enough. I've sort of been brought up on over engineering stuff, and my posts are 100 by 100 mil. The joists are, I think they're about 150 by 47 mil. They're not going anywhere at all. I've been told that some structures are clearly not strong enough and just move in the wind. This one doesn't. The tarpaulin does, the structure doesn't. So make sure you've got a good structure. If at all possible. Now it wasn't possible for me in basically 3 areas, but can I get a 4-foot overhang of the edge of the pond? So you are basically transferring that water as far away from the pond wall or the pond itself. If you can do that, brilliant. And that brings me to permeating blockwork and the water table. Now, those who've been following the channel, we suffered big time because we've got high water table and the water was penetrating the blockwork before Matt fibreglassed the first time, which was 3 years ago. So do you have a high water table, or is there any chance that water running off your cover could actually work its way back and go through the blockwork and end up spoiling the job or preventing the job from being done? So that's another thing. If you have permeating blockwork and maybe a high water table, have you thought about drainage? Actually taking the water even further away, and not so much another 4 foot or anything like that, but can you drop it into a drain and move it elsewhere? Can you drop it into a sump and pump it from the sump elsewhere? Something else to think about. If in my situation, which this thing has been built 3 weeks, 4 weeks, it never rained. Or if it did rain, it was a very, very light shower, so it never got tested. Never got a belt and braces tested. Get a hose pipe, spray the hose pipe all over it. Any drops of water in there, you've then got time to fix it. Trying to fix it when the fiberglass has stood looking at you is the wrong time. So test it. Does it work? If not, fix it. Standing water. I suffered with standing water because I've got a lot of flat paving and I've also got sloping paving that slopes towards the pond, so I was really fighting it. I couldn't do anything about that. Another big one is sunlight. Now there's a video coming out, I think it'll be out before this, but any sunlight that's on the walls or the floor of the pond prior to fiberglassing and prior to floor coating can affect the overall outlook. So that needs masking off. Now I was told by Matt, mask it off with newspaper because it would diffuse the strength of the light but still give him light to work with. So that's something else to think about. Also, when you fit a tarpaulin, or when I fitted the tarpaulin, despite the fact that you can put quite a lot of tension on with bungee ropes and screwing it down and holding it down, the wind will get under it and it'll create a balloon. So if you've got a shallow slope to run your water off, chances are as that water's running and the wind gets under it, it will push it all the way back up to the highest point, and perhaps that is, as in my case, the weakest point, and you'll get water running through. So if you can actually put a waterproof material on top of the wooden frame and then actually anchor that down, maybe by putting lengths of wood on and securing the lengths of wood just to act as battening to prevent the wind getting underneath and ballooning everything up. And also, if you don't have this 4 foot perimeter and it is low, and again I've noticed this with the tarpaulin, is the water starts to drop off, the wind gets up and it's got a flicking motion, the water is flicked back towards the pond, and in my case in the pond, because in some areas I just can't get the overhang, it won't go. So that's as far as I've got with where I went wrong, the pros and cons and the wins. The win is Matt thankfully got it fiberglassed but was unable to floor coat and unable to put a second coat of resin on because of failure in the structure, and we were beaten really badly with the weather. I'm taking it on the chin. I do feel sorry and I do apologise profusely for Matt because he's travelled twice now to our pond and we still haven't got it completed. Bless him, he's coming back a third time. Matt's going to choose the time because he's got to be happy with the temperature, which let us down because everything's gone cold, and I know people have started putting pond covers back on, and the fact that we're getting water back into the pond, which is a big no-no. So basically this is a reminder for me of where things went right and clearly where things went wrong. I just want to pass that information on to you, and hopefully that will help you, and maybe or you'll end up doing a structure that works first time because of this information, and you won't let your fiberglasser down or yourself. So I hope a lot of this has helped. If you need any more information about the construction, please let me know. If not, have a nice day. Try not to get wet as we are here still. Get the jab, look after your family. Thank you. Storage cover. A couple of items I missed. I've put an overhang on the far end of the pond at least 5 foot, and that gives a little bit of space for your fiberglasser to put all his materials outside of the pond that he's working in, but underneath a cover that you might not have thought about. So extend your cover in one area, hopefully the shallow end, where he can get access to his materials, and if it is raining and you've got a perfect structure, all his materials are going to be dry and he can reach them just by putting his hand over the wall. Another big one as well, which I didn't realise, but if you are wrapping the tarpaulin around a structure or around a pole, you are naturally going to get ripples or pleats in your tarpaulin. So even if you have a steep slope and you have these pleats, you are gathering water in those pleats. If the tarpaulin balloons and the pleats open up, the water will be pushed back up to the highest point, and perhaps that's your weak point. So do be aware, if you're starting to gather around a corner, you're going to create these little gullies where the water can stay, and if you can't get rid of it, it could end up going in the wrong place rather than evaporating or running off. I think I've got everything, so I'm just going to have this right in the middle. It might seem a little bit odd, but I'll just put this in the middle. Cheers. Good afternoon from Chernobyl Mission Control. You'll be all aware that the weather got to us and the structure of the roof was against us and the temperature was against us. It's currently at 20 degrees, blowing a bit of a wind now, so I've planned to do some changes and have ordered some damp proof course 8 metre by 4 metre sheet, which should come on Tuesday. But in the meantime, I've increased the slope of the roof, so it's now pitching even quicker. I just have to watch my head and Matt's head when we walk past here. I've also had a bit of a brainstorm. So if you look along the roof, see the various joints where the sheets touch, and that's where the water's getting through, that has gathered up in the water resistant tarpaulin. So the idea, basically just to keep me occupied, is I'm going to put some tape across those gaps, and then I just happened to find this in the garage, and I'm going to blather that over the joints. Might not work, but just to make an effort until the 8x4 metre sheet arrives. The problems that I was up against was the structure of the greenhouse is a lot weaker than the structure of the cover of the pond, and I didn't want to bond the structure of the pond to the greenhouse. Any kind of twisting motion could take windows out, so I just had to get as close as possible. So if I can climb up here without falling over, because that would be hysterics. So basically this is as close as I dare get. and it's restricted by the side opening window. I have got to try and create a bond that sits underneath these slats and this glass all the way along in order to keep the water out. So I've had a word with my mate the builder, and he's got me some of this DPC, and it's 18-inch wide, so this should take it right down here somewhere, in which case I'll put a piece of that down here and bond that on as well, and that will go on top of the new DPC when that arrives. These are the gaps. Hysterically I tried a bit of tape on the underside, clearly that didn't work, so I'm going to put tape on the top and then bury that in some of this blackjack. It will either work perfectly or fail miserably. Let's see how that goes.